Hello, friends. Mark Heath, Andy Warren here to break down a fairly extraordinary press conference this morning with Ipswich Town boss Paul Cook. It's fair to say, Hutchie, after that 3-0 defeat at AFC Wimbledon, the 10-man Town dreadful performance on Tuesday night, Mr. Cook was not a happy man this morning.
Very fair. Intense. Looking down the barrel of the laptop lens for much of it. Clearing what he wanted to say. And said everything that he thought. I think he's kind of put the muffler on now and again with his comments in terms of what he thinks of this playing squad. But that was all off this morning. I'm sure everybody's read it, seen his thoughts. He could not have been more clear with how unhappy he is with this squad and what's going to happen to it in the next few weeks. Pain was a word he used many, many times, and yeah, there's going to be 6 weeks of pain.
And another word he used was Demolition Man in reference to his approach to the squad. Last night there was news breaking that Alan Judge won't play for Town again. Clearly indications that a lot of players are going to be out the door. Just your thoughts on Judge and who else might be heading out the door under this new regime?
In short, nobody's safe. We'll get to that bit in a minute. On Alan Judge, I don't like the way that some careers at clubs can end in this way. It's kind of on a technicality. He's played 34 games for Ipswich this season, 29 starts in the league. They're all league games. One more and he triggers an extra year on his contract, and Ipswich don't want to do that. He was going to be released, so that's him done. He's stood down, not available for selection for first team games now because they simply didn't want to trigger that 1 year option. I don't particularly like that. I absolutely see why the club have done it. Don't get me wrong. If they don't want to renew his contract, then don't renew his contract. You can't get out of that if he'd played one more game, one more start, that is. But it's not a very nice way for a player that's, while hasn't hit the heights that we all hoped that he would, in terms of effort and commitment to it, I don't think you can doubt what Alan Judge has done over the last couple of years, but sadly it just didn't come together like we really hoped it would for him, and that's him done at Ipswich Town after 91 games, and he'll be a free agent in just a few weeks.
Okay, so the Judge era is over at Town. Let us know what you thought about his time at Town. Of course, the next question, Hutchie, obviously, is after what Cook has said this morning, and do go back and read it if you've not seen it, because some really extraordinary quotes from a manager about his own players. Who's next? We know Emma Hughes is probably out the door as well. There are 13 first teamers, counting Judge. Now, obviously, 12 out of contract in the summer. What are you expecting next, Hutchie?
Quite honestly, we've been hearing for a while that it's going to be a very serious cull in the summer in terms of the players that are going. Wouldn't shock me if it was actually all of them. We shall see. I'm not sure if that would be the right decision or not, but nothing would, given the tone of Paul Cook this morning, wouldn't shock me if it was every single one of them. He's made it very clear what he thinks of these players. He says he can't trust them. He's listed their deficiencies, which include almost every attribute of being a football player in terms of attacking, defending set pieces, scoring set pieces, fitness, athleticism. He says his players and his team can't do any of it, which it's a very clear indication of how he feels. He was asked how his players were feeling after the 3-0 loss at Wimbledon on Tuesday night. He simply replied, "I don't care." I understand it was a very painful day at the club on Thursday. Jimmy Walker was one that left. Alan Judge, obviously, this news, we broke that news on Thursday night, but those discussions were had during the day, and I'm sure some others have been told some home truths and had some things spilled out for their future as well. So I think you could certainly count on the fingers of one hand, minus the thumb, how many of these players might be kept on who are out of contract, if at best. And it's also worth saying as well that there's absolutely no guarantee that those that are under contract are players that Cook wants either. And there's about, I don't know how many there are of them, 9 or 10 senior players under contract. And I'll be honest, I could imagine that half of those are players he will look to move on as well. So Nobody's safe from the Demolition Man. I've not seen Demolition Man. I don't know the plot, but I assume he demolishes things.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be quite as violent in Ipswich Town, but clearly, as you say, nobody is safe. The new era, the Cook reign, is beginning in earnest. 6 weeks of pain ahead. We shall see. If you've not read the story, go back and read Andy's story from this morning, because, as I say, they are extraordinary quotes, and you can be under no doubt that there's some interesting times ahead under Paul Cook.